Have you ever been so tired that sleep feels heavier than gravity itself? Now imagine you close your eyes for a moment, and when you open them again, 6 days have passed. Outside, the streets are empty, your neighbor's lights are off, and as you look around, you realize the whole village is asleep. This isn't fiction. This happened in Kalachi, a tiny village in northern Kazakhstan, a place the locals now call Sleepy Hollow. Between 2013 and 2015, more than 200 people collapsed into mysterious comas that lasted for days or even weeks. They called it the sleeping curse. Doctors called it encephalopathy of unknown origin. But for the people of Kalachi, it was simply fear.
And a mysterious and terrifying epidemic is gripping a small village in rural Kazakhstan.
Kalachi was never meant to be famous. It sits in a flat, windswept plain, one road in, one road out. A few hundred people, most of them descendants of miners who once worked the nearby uranium mines of Krasnogorsk. When the Soviet Union collapsed, the mines shut down. The young moved away. The old stayed behind. Farmers, shepherds, teachers, children. Life was quiet, predictable, until one cold March afternoon in 2013, when a man named Sergei was returning home from work and suddenly fell face first into the snow. He didn't wake up for 5 days. At first, people thought it was exhaustion or alcohol, but within weeks, it began happening to others: children in school, women in the market, even a police officer on patrol. One day, an entire classroom fell asleep during lessons. Doctors came from the regional capital. They checked blood sugar, heart rate, oxygen levels, nothing abnormal. The patients breathed normally, their hearts were fine, but no one could wake them. When they did wake, they were ravenous, confused, and sometimes hallucinating. One boy said he saw horses running across his ceiling. The villagers began sleeping with their boots on, afraid they might collapse outside in the snow. By 2014, more than 1 in 4 residents had been affected. Scientists, journalists, and government officials flooded in. They tested the air, the water, the food. The first theory blamed carbon monoxide from old uranium mines leaking through the soil. Another claimed radiation. When measurements came back normal, panic only deepened. Some whispered that the old mine was cursed. Others blamed secret Soviet experiments. A rumor spread that the Earth itself wanted to sleep, and anyone living above those abandoned tunnels would eventually join it. By the second year, Kalachi no longer lived by daylight, it lived by fear of falling asleep. Families took turns staying awake. Mothers shook their children every hour through the night. Farmers tied bells to doors, so if they collapsed while working, someone might hear the fall. Old woman named Aigul, who remembered waking up after 6 days. Her husband had grown a beard. The soup on the stove had turned cold, and her first words were, "Why is it still winter?" People began keeping sleep diaries, marking how long they were gone. Some slept for 2 days, others for 8. The strangest part, they could still dream. Many described the same vision, a thick fog rolling over the village, muffling every sound. Some said they saw their own homes from above, like they'd floated outside their bodies. When they woke, they all said the same sentence. It felt peaceful, too peaceful. The Kazakh government sent medical teams and radiation experts. They measured oxygen levels underground and discovered a pocket of carbon monoxide and hydrocarbons trapped inside the old uranium shafts. When winds changed direction, those gases rose through cracks in the earth, diluting the oxygen in the air just enough to make people lose consciousness, slowly, gently, like drifting off mid-conversation. The cause sounded scientific, but the villagers didn't buy it. Because why now? The mine had been abandoned for 20 years. Why did the sleep begin only in 2013? And why did even cats, dogs, and the cattle collapse at the same time as people? The scientists left with data. The villagers were left with doubt. In 2015, authorities began relocating families. Some went willingly, others refused, saying Kalachi was their only home. Imagine packing your life while half your neighbors lie asleep. Trucks rolled out slowly, their engines echoing through empty streets, as if the village itself was sighing. By 2017, only a handful of residents remained. They said the episodes had stopped, or maybe the sleepers had simply all left. Today, Kalachi still stands. Rusted playgrounds, faded murals, doors swinging in the wind. Locals visit occasionally to tend graves or feed stray animals, whispering that the ground hums faintly when the storms pass. The government closed the case. Toxic gas exposure. But even now, scientists admit the numbers don't quite add up. Maybe it was a geological accident. Maybe the mine breathed one last sigh after decades of silence. Or maybe some places are simply tired of being forgotten. When I think of Kalachi, I don't picture the gas readings or government reports. I picture a mother shaking her child awake, whispering, "Don't go yet." I picture a whole village holding its breath, afraid that sleep itself had become contagious. What happened there reminds us how fragile we are, how quickly ordinary life can fade into dream. Because the line between waking and sleeping isn't measured in hours. It's measured in how easily the world can forget us.